Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's your host, TheJuan&Only, and I'm back with a topic that's starting to gain traction in 2020. I'm talking about the iPad Pro replacing your MacBook debate. Now, okay, I will admit, back like 2 years ago, Apple really, and I mean really tried to force down our throats the fact that the new iPad Pros were now worthy of replacing your MacBook or even your desktop computer. Apple further tried to innovate by creating iPad OS. Basically a glorified version of iOS, only with a few extra bells and whistles for the bigger devices being all the iPads who can support it. But even then, I felt the iPad Pro was still lacking something, and then boom, Apple delivers this extra elegant and futuristic Magic Keyboard for the iPad Pro with this really neat floating design. So now, your iPad Pro can now have its own dedicated backlit keyboard with scissor style keys and a trackpad. So now, the big question in 2020 is, iPad Pro with Magic Keyboard combo or an entry MacBook Air? I'm going to give you my honest thoughts on this one as I think it's an interesting topic. We'll also look at all the major differences between the two machines and find out which one potentially is the right one for you. But before I roll into the intro, if you could do me a favor, exit full screen and hit that like and subscribe button as it really helps the channel out a lot. Also, if you're not part of the notification squad, I have big plans for my 50,000 subscriber celebration, so make sure to stay tuned and ring that bell. One last thing, and I promise this might save you guys some money. Currently in the US, you can receive free AirPods with the purchase of a Mac or iPad. I'm not sponsored by Apple at all, I wish though, so make sure to head over to apple.com for official terms and conditions for that awesome current promotion they're running. Alright, enough with the shameless plugs, let's get this thing going. Okay, so right away, we're not even going to waste time here. Obviously, the form factor of each device does differ quite drastically. I mean, I'm pretty sure most people know what a MacBook looks like. It's a laptop, or some call them notebooks as well. But it's this unibody aluminum design that is super sleek and elegant. It definitely makes the device feel ultra premium. You of course have your keyboard and trackpad flanking that to the south, and all the main components are underneath. Then you have your beautiful 13-inch Retina display. These displays honestly are some of the best on the market. Apple never disappoints with their displays. The iPad Pro on its own is a dangerous glass cannon though. Bro, like, I don't know, I hate holding these big ass iPads without a case, cause man, you drop it and it's game over. Definitely a differing form factor. It obviously has this slab tablet design, a software keyboard with no physical buttons on the front glass whatsoever. It's just a slab of glass. It looks especially sharp on the 12.9 inch. It's just so much screen, sometimes I don't know what to do with it all. I don't know what that last sentence was supposed to mean. Anyway, if you opt to fully engage bougie mode, you can complete your entire iPad Pro experience and add on the Magic Keyboard, but it will set you back a good $299 for the 11-inch version and $349 for the 12.9 inch. My God, I forgot how expensive these things were. So yeah, Apple does discriminate on the bigger models and tax on an extra $50 for like less than $1 worth of extra material. It makes no sense to me, but hey, it is Apple. You could also add on the Apple Pencil too to be dubbed bougie king or queen, and now we'll be talking big money. So even opting for the base 11-inch iPad Pro, just the standard model, that's going to set you back $800. Add the tax for the keyboard, that's $300. We're at $1,100, my guy. How you feeling so far? Oh yeah, and what about the Apple Pencil too? So add $129 for the stupid pencil, and your grand total, before tax might I add, is $1,229, and that's in America. I can only imagine what the retail prices are overseas. Okay, now compare that to the entry Air model that comes in at $999, and now you begin to see why so many people won't even give the iPad Pro combo the time of day. I mean, from a pricing perspective, it's a no-brainer. Imagine if you want to get the 12.9 inch combo. Remember, there's tax for the bigger models. That's $1,000 straight out of the bat for just the iPad Pro. Then add in the $350 keyboard and $129 Apple Pencil, and now we're quickly approaching $1,500. A tidy sum for most people. But okay, let's say you're dead set on all the advantages and perks of the iPad Pro combo. Let's see what advantages the iPad with Magic Keyboard combination boasts. So like most humans, one would be quick to say, oh, portability, am I right? But actually, technically, no. I know, I'm just as shocked as you. Let me explain. The iPad Pro itself, at least the 12.9 version, being the largest iPad available, weighs in at 640 grams. Pretty light for what it is. A giant, powerful slab of glass and aluminum that happens to be a really nice computer. But, and here's the big but, the Magic Keyboard case weighs 702 grams more than the 12.9-inch iPad Pro itself. It's elementary math, man. So this combined weight of the full iPad plus Magic Keyboard combo is 1,342 grams, heavier than a MacBook Air, which weighs about 1,270 grams, or about 2.8 pounds for my fellow Americans. Yeah, kind of surprising. But other advantages you get are obviously all the power of an iPad now in a laptop form factor. You do have that huge display that is a multi-touch Retina display, something the MacBook line has never had. I didn't know, but apparently it's like a huge debate. I personally have no need for my laptop screen to be responsive to touch, but what are your opinions on that matter? Do you like touchscreens on laptops or not? Let me know down below. But getting back to the iPad Pro plus Magic Keyboard combination, it is really cool interacting with the full-size backlit keyboard and then go and interact with the display. It truly makes me feel bougie, and best believe whenever I go back to school for my master's degree, you better believe I'm gonna pull up and be the bougie king with this setup. This leads me to my next point though. The whole experience is completely different if you go the iPad Pro route. First off, that floating design is straight fire. Imagine being in a classroom in a sea of MacBook Airs and then boom. Yes sir, you're the only one in the room that had to be extra, and I mean, I wouldn't blame others for being haters. You got a floating iPad for crying out loud. But all jokes aside, the setup is pretty dope. It really does look elegant, especially in dim lit scenarios, and turning on the backlights for the keys, man, looks really futuristic and nice. It does come with a slight annoyance though. I don't know if I'm just being nitpicky, but this whole setup is extremely hard to open up one-handed. It's almost mandatory to use both hands, especially on the 12.9 inch. I don't know, it's just cumbersome, and I mean, MacBooks are extremely easy to open one-handed, heck, even with one finger. Just lay it down and lift the top portion and boom, there you go, ready to rock and roll. Then there's the obvious Achilles heel of the iPad, and that's that it basically runs that glorified version of iOS. You won't get that true feel of a traditional desktop OS, although this case does bring an interesting alternative to the table. As is obvious, this bottom portion of the case, when being laid on the table, is a trackpad. Now, I'm not 100% sure if exactly all the same components are the same from the iPad trackpad versus the MacBook trackpads. I don't think so though. The glass trackpads on the MacBook still feel way better to me, and not to mention how massive they are on the MacBooks. It is present here, but a scaled down, clickier version that allows you to navigate around iPad OS pretty smoothly. It's interesting at first, but after a day or two, it honestly loses its luster, and I go back to wishing this thing had a bigger trackpad. And on the other hand, we have the MacBook Air, the beloved MacBook Air, might I add. Walk into any college or university classroom, and I guarantee a good 40 to maybe 70% of the laptop users in that class have a MacBook Air. It's just iconic. It's trusted, and it's Apple's most affordable MacBook currently in 2020, coming in at a starting price of $999 for the baseline configuration. Although if you're a teacher, professor, or student, Apple will graciously shave off $100 to bring the total price down to $899. The discounts are available on the iPad Pros as well. I'm just not sure if the accessories follow the same student discount. For the iPad Pros, you get a $50 discount for the students on the 11-inch, and on the 12.9 inch, it gets a bigger $100 discount to bring it in line to that same MacBook Air price point for students. But remember, to get the whole experience on the iPad Pro, the Magic Keyboard and Apple Pencil 2 are sold separately, and I think that's a huge missed opportunity, not only for the iPad line, but to Apple as a whole. I think it really steers a lot of people away at just how much you have to invest into the iPad Pro setup. While the MacBook Air doesn't feature the same OLED touch bar as its Pro counterparts, it does feature a Touch ID sensor used to unlock the MacBooks, as well as making online purchases, while the iPad Pros use Face ID technology to unlock. Also present on the MacBook Air and not the iPad Pro's Magic Keyboard are the function keys. It's not a big deal for me, but could be a deal breaker for others. I don't know, it's crazy. I'm sure you guys know how a MacBook Air works. It's nothing new at all. We've had MacBook Airs for several years now, and that's why so many people just prefer the MacBook Air over the iPad Pro. People are afraid of change and feel iffy on the whole iPad Pro setup, and I get them. See, the thing is, it's just so hard. Each machine has its advantages and disadvantages. Honestly, it's just so hard to pick at times, because I mean, with the iPad Pro, you're almost getting a 2-in-1, you know what I mean? Like, imagine typing away, creating the next script or next PowerPoint presentation, and then a quick picture moment arises. Just attach the iPad Pro super easily and snap that photo. I don't know how many people take pictures with their iPads, but let's give credit where credit is due. The cameras on the iPad Pro are top notch, and you simply can't do that with the MacBook Air. What are you gonna do with that little VGA quality FaceTime camera? I'll tell you what, nothing. Aside from the obvious edge the iPad has in terms of camera quality, both machines have fantastic speaker systems. The MacBook Air speakers are flanked to either side of the keyboard, while the iPad Pros have a quadruple chamber kind of setup that have 2 down-firing speakers and 2 speakers firing upwards. It's really immersive to listen to music on either, as Apple is known to be really good at implementing great speaker systems into their machines. The Air also has 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports, and honestly, that's all I need on an Air. All my dongles, all my adapters are primarily reserved for my chunky 16-inch MacBook Pro. As I mentioned in the Magic Keyboard review for the iPad Pro, the case has this neat pass-through USB Type-C connection that makes charging a breeze and really is reminiscent of charging a typical laptop. It is useful, but nothing revolutionary. And then the Air, and it's the Air, man. I don't know how else to put it. It's light, it gives me everything I expect out of it, running macOS instead of iPadOS. Light photography editing, scripting on Microsoft Word almost daily, and web browsing is really what the Air is good at. And that's why I think this argument is just so hard to pick a side on, because neither of these machines are meant for power-hungry users. You wouldn't expect either of these machines to be able to handle and edit raw 8K footage, although the Air does have the upper hand in being able to support those fully fledged desktop applications like Motion and Final Cut Pro. So long as your workload is super light and using it occasionally for some minor video editing, the Air will do you wonders. That's not to say you can't edit video on the iPad Pro. Of course you can. It's just really finicky. There's nothing like editing with your traditional cursor using a fully fledged desktop application alongside the much bigger trackpads like on the MacBook Air and especially on the 16-inch MacBook Pro. For that reason, I personally would prefer an Air over the iPad Pro setup, and it's not only because my needs tend to lean more on the Pro side. My reasoning is simple. Cost. Even with the student discounts, picking up even the 11-inch model, you're still paying $300 more to get the entire package. That's including the Apple Pencil 2 and Magic Keyboard. So at that point, it's super hard to recommend, especially when, I kid you not, 9 times out of 10 when people say they need an iPad Pro, they don't. They can easily scrape by with an Air and keyboard combination and save a ton of money in the process. The thing with the Pro line is it's the Pro line, and with that comes its heavily taxed Pro accessories as well. So not only the price, but the fact that the iPad Pro can't fully support Pro level applications like Final Cut is why I still prefer the Air. Until iPad Pros can fully support these desktop Pro level apps, then in my eyes, it will be a much stronger candidate when putting it up against the Air when that day finally arrives. At the end of the day though, you'll be the one making the purchase. My aim here was to educate and inform while also giving you my honest opinion, and again, it is only my opinion. If you disagree and think the iPad Pro is a better choice, cool. Drop a comment, give me your reasoning, and I don't know, we could have a nice discussion going. But at the end of the day, I'm still sticking with the Air. It's super versatile for what it's best at, regular schmegular everyday tasks. But if you want to flex and money's not an issue for you, then the iPad Pro with Magic Keyboard 2 not only looks sexy, but you'll feel like you're living in the year 3025 with that floating design. But let me know what you guys think. What do you think of the stark differences at the approach both of these machines have at being a computer? One is a classic, while the other is here to make a statement. Can an iPad replace your desktop? It honestly boils down to a case-by-case basis. What might be great for me may be overkill for you. So hey, just weigh out the differences. I know this is a hard one, but I'm going to give the slight edge to the Air. But that's been it for me today, guys. Can't wait to catch you all in my next video. Peace.